Hi guys, welcome back. Thanks for coming back to the second part of the video. In reward for coming back to the second part of the video, I'm going to give you the code word, but do not stop the video here. You need to finish these up, otherwise you won't know how to do the problems. The code word for today is MAC, in honor of my new nephew, M-A-C. So write that down in your notes now. All right, we left off on this problem where we notice that we have the same coefficients. Both of these x's are 1s. They're not opposites. Remember, if I add 1x and 1x, those are not going to cancel out. Those are going to make 2x, which is not what we want. I need one of these things to be a negative. Well, what we've learned about standard form is that I can change signs by multiplying or dividing everything by a -1. So I can do either one of these. I'm going to choose the bottom one, and I'm going to multiply everything on the bottom by -1. The top equation is going to stay exactly the same. I'm just writing the 1 in front of the x to remind you that it's there. For this one, all the signs change. -1 times 1 is -1. -1 times 7 is -7y. -1 times 20 is -20. From here on out, we use the same steps that we've done before. These will now eliminate. 1 plus -1 is 0. If I write x here, that means that there is one x left over. There is not. Those have eliminated altogether. 4 plus -7 is -3y. And 11 plus -20 is -9. You should check those with your calculator, otherwise you're going to have some sign errors and that's going to make you get weird answers. Now we need to isolate the y by dividing both sides by -3. The -3 cancels, so y is equal to 3. So now I know that part of my answer is something comma 3. Now it's the exact same thing as substitution, the exact same thing as the other elimination problems. We choose either one of our equations. I'm going to choose the one with smaller numbers. I now know that y is 3, so I'm going to replace y with 3. When the 4 and the y are right next to each other, that means times. 4 times 3 is 12, 12 equals 11. Subtract 12 from each side, and so x equals -1. So my solution is -1 comma 3. It's right there. Pause the video and try this one on your own. I want you to notice that you have the same coefficients, but those are not opposite signs. So you need to multiply one of these by -1 like we did up at the top. Go ahead and pause it and try this on your own now. It doesn't matter which one you do. I'm going to multiply the top one this time by -1. If you did the bottom, you should get the same answer. If you don't, then you should go back and check your work. So the top, all the signs change. -2x minus 5y equals -13. The bottom is 4x plus 5y equals 17. We're going to add straight down the columns. -2 plus 4 is 2. -5 plus 5 eliminates. -13 plus 7 is 4. Now we've got x isolated, so we divide both sides by 2, and so x is 2. So you should have said that part of your answer was 2 comma something. And then you should have chosen either one of these problems. I'm going to do the top one here because it is the smaller numbers. I'm going to replace x with 2. And now I'm going to solve. 2 times 2 becomes 4. I bring down the plus 5y. I bring down the equals 13. I subtract 4 from each side. I get 5y equals 9. This is not going to divide evenly, so we're going to end up with a fraction if I divide both sides by 5, which is fine. If I divide by 5 here and divide by 5 here, y ends up being 9 over 5. It doesn't reduce or simplify, so we leave that as 9/5. If you don't have these answers, you're going to want to write them down so that you have them to refer to when you do your IP. All right, now, sometimes these do not have the same numbers. Remember, this is elimination. Sorry, I did not make this PowerPoint. Sometimes we're going to have numbers that are different. So what I notice is that I don't have any matching coefficients. These are lined up, but I don't have any matching coefficients at all. What we want to start looking for is things that we call common multiples. And if you don't know how to multiply, you don't know your multiplication tables, you're going to want to get your calculator out so that you have it in front of you. I want to look at the things that match. So I'm not going to worry about signs right now. What I've got is a 2 and a 4. And I want to think about what is a common multiple for 2 and 4. Some of you will say 2, but that's not a common factor. or excuse me, that's not a common multiple, that's a common factor. I can't multiply 4 by a whole number and turn it into a 2. I want something that I can multiply these numbers by. Well, a common multiple for 2 and 4, you could use 8 if you want to, but it's too big. I'm going to use 4. Now, once I find that pretty easily, I don't need to worry about the 3 and the 8. If I want to think about a 3 and an 8, I can count by 3s. So 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 24, 27. All right, let's try some common multiples for 8. 8 times 1 is 8. 8 times 2 is 8 times 3 is 24. All right, there's our common one, 24. That's much bigger than 4. So I'm going to use the x's. We don't have to do this for both. We just choose one. So I'm going to find a common multiple for the x's, which we've decided is 4. What I want to do is turn these both into 4s. Well, this one's already a 4, so I need to multiply my top equation by 2. So this becomes negative 4x plus 6y equals 22. The bottom is 4x minus 8y equals 16. I now want to make sure that they're opposite signs, which they are. Negative 4 and 4 will cancel out when I add because negative 4 plus 4 is 0. 6 plus negative 8 is negative 2y, and 22 plus 16 is 38. I divide both sides by negative 2, and so y equals negative 19. So remember, my answer is supposed to be a coordinate pair. I only have one half of my answer. I'm going to, I think, use the top equation because it's a little easier. Negative 2x plus 3y equals 11. I'm going to replace the y with negative 19. I definitely don't know what 3 times negative 19 is in my head, so I'm going to get out my calculator. 3 times 19 becomes 57. So this is negative 2x plus negative 57 or minus 57 equals 11. I want to move the 57 to the other side, so I'm going to add 57 on both sides. So negative 2x equals 68. Divide both sides by negative 2, and so x equals negative 34. So my answer here is negative 34 comma negative 19. This is definitely the type of problem that we would not have solved using graphing because we definitely would not have had a graph that was big enough to go all the way over to negative 34 comma negative 19. All right, you pause the video and try this one on your own. All right, welcome back. You should have thought about your common multiples. So what we've got for our for our x's here is we've got a 4 and an invisible 1. Remember, I'm not worried about signs right now. I want something that I can multiply both of these numbers by to make. Well, if I just leave 4 alone and I multiply 1 times 4, now they would be the same number, which is exactly what I want. You also could have said, well, we've got 5 and 10. If I multiply 5 by 2, that makes 10. So those would be the same. Doesn't matter which way you did it. I think I'm going to use the smaller numbers. So I'm by that bottom equation by 4. They're already going to be opposite signs because one is positive and one is negative. So we have 4x plus 5y equals negative 7. And we have negative 4x minus 40y. And I don't know what 28 times 4 is, so I'm going to multiply that on my calculator. Equals 112. I'm going to add these. 4x and negative 4x cancel out. 5 and negative 4, oops, excuse me, that 40 should have had a y there. 5 and negative 40 make negative 35y. And negative 7 plus 112 gives us 105. I'm going to divide both sides by negative 35. And so y equals with a negative because a positive divided by a negative is a negative. So I don't have my whole answer yet. I know that y is negative 3, so I'm going to replace one of these with y. So we have 4x minus 15 equals negative 7. I'm going to add 15 to both sides. Sorry, I didn't leave myself quite enough room for this. So 4x equals 8. Divide both sides by 4, so I know that x is 2. So my solution here is that x equals 2. All right, time for your IP. You're going to go back to your IP on 5.6 and 5.7 called elimination. Make sure to work out the problems on a separate sheet of paper. You need to stop writing IDK and leaving blanks. You need to email me to schedule an office hour. Good to see all of you. Hope to see you in office hours soon.